The goal for this assignment is to evaluate 3 users interacting with the whole body interface and find out how they felt during gameplay. From this, we are then to determine ways the design interface can be improved. There are 2 different methods that study ways of analyzing the effect and emotion of the players by evaluating their level of engagement and enjoyment of the interaction. The first method used is the Intrinsic Motivation Inventory Post-Play Questionnaire, which covers the overall emotional experience of the interaction through structured, close-ended questions. The second method used is the Cue Recall Debrief method, which is a video-based method. The player's point of view is captured and later replayed as the player walks through their affective emotions. Evaluators then capture and evaluate comments and expressions from the player. Both methods require a high level of subjective evaluation from the evaluators. We will first discuss findings strictly from the questionnaire. Through examining the connection between the enjoyment subscale together with perceived choice subscale of player A, they support each other in the level of overall enjoyment of the emotional experience. The first player experienced a high level of enjoyment and a medium level of engagement, with results of high competence and low challenge. Looking at the data of player B, there seems to be a high level of tension which may translate into challenge in the game, but a low state of perceived competence, which theoretically translates to low flow. However, if we also consider the high level of enjoyment, it could be that this player finds really challenging games more fun, even if they may consider themselves not doing well in the game. We cannot conclude our assumption, but we can say that the player's emotional reflection on the game is about a mediocre experience with certain highlights of enjoyment, but low engagement. The high level of enjoyment from player C can be evident from the high ratings and low standard deviations from the enjoyment and perceived choice subscale. We may also predict a medium to high level of engagement that can also be supported by comparing the mid-level of challenge and balanced level of skill. Based on the cued recall debrief, similar positive comments repeated among all 3 players, including the enjoyment in the representation of the game, such as well-created settings, fun and theme-fitting enemies, and the joy of using an innovative and afforded system. Though some level of discovery is involved, such as the grab attack capability and destroying parts of the setting flexibility, it contributed to a positive factor of the game experience according to the players. Some neutral comments included trying the controllers and being familiar with them, because it did not directly affect the player's affective emotion while playing. Comments in regard to the negative aspect of the gameplay varied, which could have been due to the lack in focus in these areas by the game designers. Though all players were familiar with the controls, some players still experienced negative effects such as forgetting to reload or couldn't tell when to grab or shoot. These are directly related to the gameplay experience itself, which varies based on the player's experience with shooting games. Other negative comments, such as unable to sense the controller, reloading using the left controller rather than the right, are system interaction issues which are experienced quite commonly by the players. After evaluating our findings, the cued recall debrief session helped support and narrow down what may have made the game enjoyable to the player, such as use of new technology or funny expressions, which in turn becomes very useful when making specific future design choices. In conclusion, the overall amount of positive and negative comments reveal a high level of enjoyment while playing the game. Before stating our suggested improvements, there are certain factors of the Wii that can first and foremost be appreciated. Number 1, the controller's functionalities, which were well used and pushed to its intended use of innovation and tangibility. Number 2, the decent balance of functionality and challenge within the game. Number 3, the great look and feel, theme, and concept of the game, which allowed huge success for engaging players. As for improvements, we will state our top 5 suggestions. Number 1, detailed descriptions of all the ways of using the controllers would decrease the amount of uncertainty during initial stages of the game. The basic functions were described at the beginning, but some other helpful hints were overlooked, such as the grab attack. Number 2, we encourage the designers to push the interaction with the controllers even more by changing the reload from the left controller to the right controller. This allows the player to better relate the right hand as the gun and the left hand as the grab attack without confusing the role that the two controllers play, as currently left is grab attack and reload, and the right is just aim and shoot. Number 3, include a distance calibration to educate how far the player should be standing while playing. This will lower the times when the controller does not respond, and thus decreasing the amount of negative comments. Number 4, Be more explicit about warning players of low ammunition and enemy attack sequences so that the player wouldn't feel unprepared. And finally, number 5, utilize the strength of the gameplay environment and add little bonuses to reward the player within the game.